Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Modern Masculine Podcast. I'm here with one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Mr. Matt Kopec, again for another episode. How are you, Matt?
Doing great, Noah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. It's been a great start to this 8-8 Lions Gate. It's a very special day. For those of you who do not know, astrologically, it's a great day for manifestation. So I'm happy to be here with you and happy to be doing this podcast, brother.
Likewise, likewise. Thanks for having me on
Awesome.
again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So yeah, just kind of going off from our last episode, I feel like we just hit such a broad range of topics that I feel like, I feel like we should do it justice and really dial in on some of the key experiences that maybe you had and that we had together. Of course, our journeys are very similarly intertwined. So yeah, it just kind of works like that by nature. But just take us back, to circa 2020 to right around when you started at Goosehead.
It was quite interesting because I had started the job
So just for the
and
listeners, please clarify what exactly Goosehead is as a company.
yeah, it's a insurance brokerage.
Okay, so
Um
pretty simple. Selling insurance.
yeah. It was considered an entry level sales position. And this was kind of at a time after you had left Austin, and I think something that we both were realizing too was a lesson of codependence around that time.
Hmm.
With one another, but also in our own respective regards with relationships with women.
Hmm.
Um, it was quite interesting too because I think it also brings up the subject of neediness, and
Mm.
where neediness fills a void when you lack the self-confidence. And I think it's important too to kind of define what confidence is. And I feel like what confidence is just believing who you are and what you could offer to a situation. And sometimes it's hard if you've done a journey with someone for so long to know what that looks like without them.
Mm.
I think a lot of people see that in relationships, especially romantic ones, where it's very difficult when someone loses someone else in their life that gave them so much affirmation and so much of their own worth. And when that leaves, oftentimes that can create a very toxic situation where you're trying to bring that back into your life, and that could be try to be filled in through other people or trying to rekindle something that was already lost and gone. Um, I felt like at that time I had a lot of neediness, and a lot of it had to come from, I mean, not necessarily our relationship per se, but I feel like I was someone that had never quite been affirmed by women, even though I was doing a lot at the time to become an attractive man. And I
Mm.
did believe deep down in myself that I was. However, I felt like I needed it from other people.
Mm.
And I recently read the book Models by Mark Manson, which is an excellent book about cultivating your manhood and your lack
Great
of
book.
need. And it really breaks it down in kind of a scientific way, but he's got a really cool writing style and he's very frank. He wrote also the book The Subtle Art to Not Give a Fuck.
Yo.
Um, this book really lays out different types of common situations, and one of which that he articulated was very similar to one that I had been going through, where it's like you grow up as someone necessarily wasn't very attractive, and that was true for myself. I in high school was a very late bloomer. By the time I graduated, I still had so much acne on my face, and even early into college, that was the case for me as well. Um,
Same here.
yeah, and once like we did a lot of self-development
Hmm.
internally and physically, and it came to a point too where like, all right, I feel this way about myself. I need people to affirm that for me because I for some reason don't have enough self-confidence to see that for myself, and I need validation from other people. So I
Absolutely.
remember I went on like a weekend trip to Big Bend National Park, which was about an 8-hour drive away from Austin. So I only got to go into the national park for about 5 hours on the following day that I drove up there. But I went by myself, and I wanted to make a spirit trip out of this.
Mm.
On my way up this hike up this mountain at Big Bend, I listened to the book on audio, Mastery of Self, And that's kind of where I learned a lot about the idea of domestications and attachments and how those could keep you away from acting from your true, pure light, pure joy. And one of the meditation exercises within the book, and it came up at a perfect time where I was just about the peak of the mountain, and I stopped and looked at this overlook where you see like the Rio Grande. And on the meditation, it says, visualize your goal and the gratitude you will feel from recognizing it.
Mm,
And I feel like I was kind of at the point where I was going to get fired if I didn't start producing soon. I was about 6 weeks into the job and really only had a
right.
couple deals. And so the gratitude I wanted to feel was me reaching my goal. I had about 2 weeks left in the month, and I had to do a lot of work if I were to reach my goal at that point. And not
Mhm.
many two people believed in me. I deep down believed in myself, but like I knew I had to really gear in if I were to hit my goal. So I basically had to do 20 deals, typically speaking.
Woo!
Depends on how expensive the house was or the car. You know what I mean?
Right. So it was an
Um,
uphill battle for sure.
Oh, absolutely, and I had not proven myself at all yet, and I was learning still very much on the job, and, so I go back I get back to Austin about 2 a.m. that day. I check in at work at, like, 7, so not much sleep, but I'm like, "I'm committed to this goal." The very first day, I go on, you have to go on, business trips, not trips, but, like, you'd have to go to all these different loan offices within the Austin area and try to inquire for business, and it wasn't very easy, and not many people were able to do that because Goose had a pretty bad reputation, and basically the market was quite saturated, where like people were already had their insurance guy that were loan officers, and they weren't really going to break a relationship for just some random like young kid in their 20s like I'm trying to get into insurance sales, like you should send all your business to me and like trust me with your reputation. um I made 3 really great relationships with pretty good, legitimate, loan officers, and I suddenly started getting so much, referrals, and
Mm,
I hit my goal. I got recognized in the office for it.
wow.
Probably during my time that I was live at Goosehead, I probably did the best job at creating, business relationships,
Mm,
networking, creating referral partners
yes.
during that time. And
Yeah.
other than that, I was pretty, I'd say, to be honest, aggressively average or subpar at most other elements of the job.
Mhm.
But I was considered a networking savant because
Mm,
what I feel like I've learned about what makes you a great networker is pulling from the thread of love woven through all of us. And that's how I was really making great connections with everyone in the office too. Is I feel like, and we talk about spirituality a lot. Um, I hate the idea that there's good and there's bad people. I know I heard we had a conversation about something like there's lizard people and then there's angels. I'm like, I hate this because I feel like everyone within them has God.
right.
Um, and what ends up detering you away from God is the domestications and attachments that you build along the way. And that's what like your ego is ultimately, is when people are telling you who you are or what you're capable of, or you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you're gonna be punished for doing this versus that. And
Right.
I feel like that gets you away from who you truly are and the light within you.
Yep.
And I feel like I was quite in tune with that at that time. But granted, too, I was getting quite domesticated by all the attention I was getting. Like, Matt's going to do really great. I remember after I got really recognized for that month in front of the whole office, another manager was like, "And you're going to hit double that amount next month." And this wasn't even my manager,
Oh,
but like suddenly people are putting all these really lofty expectations on me, and
yeah.
but you got all these people that giving you so much attention, and you're building influence and stuff based on your success from recently, and
Yeah.
um, it was hard for me to live into that fully. And I feel like too, I think it's a really important thing to recognize is what makes high performers fail. I feel like I got away from my disciplines that got me the success, which was being
Mm,
sober, being really intentional, having the belief and desire,
mhm.
the acceptance from the gratitude I felt in that meditation of already envisioning what it would look like if I hit
Yes.
my goal. I got away from that. I got away from a lot of the things that helped build us up a lot over the past years too, where we were
Yes.
always meditating, always exercising, always being really intentional with how we're going about our day. I was burning out, man. I wasn't excellent shape going into that job, and I really was kind of falling out of shape.
Yep.
I think exercise is really foundational for how you put yourself forth in the world and the energy you're able to emit.
Absolutely.
Um,
Well,
so
thank you for all of that, Matt. Really awesome stuff you just laid out for us there. But for anybody who's really looking to get into the world of sales or really just networking and ultimately really just building relationships, which, I like to think that's really what life is all about. So I got one last question for you. It might be a tough one, but when did you know it was time to go and how did that impact your psyche?
I mean, to start off, I do agree with you that, sales is a really great, not necessarily long-term career, which it can be for some people, because you're going to get tested. Your soul is going to get tested because there's so many opportunities for you to lie or misrepresent things in order to advance your own self and your own agenda. Um, it's a great arena to test yourself, and I feel like in a way, um, went into it knowing that it was going to be a good challenge for me to get out of my introspective ways to it's a great way to balance freedom with responsibility as well, because you get to really show who you truly are and, to communicate authentically in order to make authentic connections. And, that's one of the main parts of life. And, a lot of it's transitively through sales that you could use in your own personal life. And I wanted to really develop those skills, just like I want to develop my marketing skills, just like I want to develop my writing skills. And I feel like if you could cumulatively develop different skill sets like those that are so fundamental, you're going to find ways in life to pull from all those different skill sets to find your best way and your best purpose. And it's good to have a really balanced skill set. And I wanted to be able to say I could develop that. I do feel like I did develop that. And it kind of came to a point too where I felt like I best served the office in the way I could. And I, talk about not having regrets. And in a way, I don't like to ever say I do have regrets because the lessons from your mistakes and shortcomings ultimately are going to help you grow if you do have the right growth mindset toward them. However, I do think it is quite important to leave on your own feet. And although I guess I did leave on my own feet, I wish I left in a better way because I did make great relationships with these people. And it's important to leave on a good note because you never know when you're going to see them again in life. And perhaps I never will. And, I do live thousands of miles away from them now, but you want to leave with integrity and leaving in the right way. And I really could have done that, but instead I kind of just try to, pull off a relationship that I probably shouldn't have. And also, too, when I left, I didn't handle my grief in the right way. I should have, allowed myself to digest things for a couple months before I spoke up and made sure my ego was out of the way when I did, speak up about how I felt about the situation. But ultimately, I was doing my best to, handle my grief and move forward. And although I didn't necessarily do the literal best job that someone could do at it, I'm okay with that, and I hope I could get forgiveness from them, and if I can't, I know I can just try to find forgiveness from God, and that's what's important in life is you're not gonna always get forgiveness from people, um, but you gotta be able to forgive yourself through God, and, getting closer to Him is always a solution when you have hit a place where you've done wrong and you've sinned in life, and, or maybe if you didn't sin particularly, but if you know that you failed and you need to regather that strength and courage to move forward. And I feel like in sacrifice, it's really important in getting closer to God because I do, in a way, want to continue a lot of those relationships from afar. And I do like the influence I did gain. And I, in a way, I built a lot of self-esteem from that. But I gotta be willing to let that go because you gotta realize too, sometimes in life, like, is it gonna serve them if you continue to reach out to them from afar? You got to think about that sometimes as well. And I feel like that sacrifice of, letting go of people that were your friends, if it's just going to be like, they're in this office and they need their own peace and happiness in that office. I don't need to be reaching out to them and, trying to talk about anything because ultimately the past is going to be brought up in what negative light was in the HR situation that occurred. And I don't want that for them. I want the utmost peace and happiness for all of them, and I just have to ultimately own my mistakes, align with the truth of the situation, and move forward. Because if I'm lying and I'm just trying to be like, well, I wish they charged this, that, I wish I, had a little bit more, um, sympathy or, empathy given toward me. But I ultimately, deep down, on textbook, did things that were deserving of me getting, let go. I got to put my ego aside and like, oh, well, I was doing this and that really well. And, I acted out of character one time or, something like that. But you just ultimately got to swallow that and move forward. And I'm learning to do that. And I just feel like when it comes to knowing when to let go and leave, it's important to try to be guided by grace and the utmost peace and happiness for everyone involved because it's not going to serve anyone if everyone's just trying to tell their own truths and things like that. You just got to realize not everyone's going to see everything the same way, and just move on and just try to be the best person that you can be. And that's how I want to really move forward. And I feel like if you could align with just that truth, that everyone's truth is different on a situation or a conflict, it could help you kind of get more aligned with your spirit and move forward because it's not about having people being subjected to your point of view and things like that. People are always going to see things differently when there is a conflict, and that doesn't mean that there always is such a pure good in one situation, a pure evil in such a situation. Um, it's kind of interesting because people talk about things like per se like war, like there's a good side and a bad side, but within both sides they think they're good and the other side's bad, and there's bits and pieces of truth to both sides always, and I think I ultimately though, in order to move on, I need to take 100% responsibility for the situation, as hard as that might be. As much as I feel like sometimes like, I wish this, that, and the other could have, been afforded to me, but you're not gonna be able to fully move on from a hurt or situation that you know that you've done wrong in unless you take 100% responsibility for it, because that allows you to reclaim your agenda and then hopefully advance in life with abandon from the past.
Boom. So for everyone at home listening to this podcast, I truly hope that that resonated with even just one person who's maybe going through a similar situation, who's had maybe a unfortunate set of circumstances, either at their job or with their family. That was something that I've been going through myself. Honestly, just dealing with a lot of ego, the desires of the ego. Letting my strength go and allowing my ego to kind of take a hold, like you said, really just knowing when to let go, and to let into love, because truly, I think that the truth can be misleading in that it doesn't always lead to love, right? Because the truth is really different to every one of us. And if we can instead choose to focus on reclaiming, love and peace and bliss and these higher values, and really adopting, an attitude of virtue, not in an egoish way, but really just like, putting that into practice and, having the self restraint to know when to, yeah, just get out of your own way. And also to not take things personally from other people who may be acting out of their ego too, because I feel like it's, yeah, it's really something that can get out of hand very easily if left unchecked. So, yeah. Any final notes, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, to kind of just build off of your point, I like a lot what you had just said, and I know we've been talking a lot about getting aligned with, your spirit and God, and through that, you need to cleanse your soul from a lot of, domestications and attachments and such. But also, in order to align with your spirit, you should always try to have a good body of values that you're trying to align yourself with. And I liked a lot how you said don't take things personally,
Mm,
in a way, I feel like one of the reasons why I acted out of character at that time is because I took rejection personally when it should never necessarily be about that because it wasn't even particularly maybe about me, you know what I mean? It was just ultimately about just the nature of the situation. And I think I really like Don Miguel Ruiz's four agreements, and not taking things personally is one of them. Not making assumptions. I feel like I kind of jumped to an assumption in terms of thinking, that I could make a relationship out of very little effort based on, some signals that I thought were receptive, but you can't necessarily assume that. And being impeccable with your word, which is really important. And I realized at a certain point, I was trying to tell the story from my point of view in a way that I was almost distorting it in a way just to save my own ego. And
Mm,
it ultimately really hurt me and made it very difficult for me to move on because I knew deep down that it was a bit of a lie in there. And
yeah.
you need to be aligned with truth, and you need to take 100% responsibility when you do wrong. Um, I forget the fourth element. Always try your best is the fourth
Mm,
element, and
mhm.
I think that's important too. So I feel like if you can live by those four agreements, and just try to always be in touch with God, your spirit, through whether that be meditation, through a religious practice, because in a way, I read something about this term omninism
Mm,
recently. It's like truth could be found in all, not one religion is truth, but truth could be found in all religions. Granted, maybe not every religion per se. I don't want to include
right.
everyone, but I feel like
Outliers and everything.
there is that, you know what I mean? And it's interesting because there's people that have negative views of certain religions, and there's people that have actually found a lot of truth and happiness and have actually made great contributions within the practice of every religion. It basically seems like, from what I've, the ones I am aware of at least,
Oh,
and I think it's just important to have a good body of values. I have some values that are, Christian. I also have some that are kind of just in a spiritual context from the Toltec tradition that Don Miguel Ruiz talks about. But then also, if you look up, Toltec warrior within, Google search, you're going to see a really like bad history and tradition. But the way that he presents the tradition from his lineage, sounds really pure, and like there actually is a lot of value within it. And perhaps there's been a lot of changes throughout the years and the generations in that regard. But I think it's an interesting thing in terms of, I feel like a lot of times in the modern day, no one, especially I feel like within our generation in particular, like no one, there's been kind of like something that I've noticed where there's not many people practicing like one religion quite strictly, but they're trying to pull bits and pieces from different levels of, spiritual text, or, different bodies of work, and ultimately accumulating that into their own unique body of values. And that's the interesting dynamic that I think, we're going to see more of as time goes on, and I feel like in a way we've been people in a way to try to, pull things from different types of religions and spiritual practices in order just to ultimately build our own foundation. And
right.
yeah, I think that's in a way, probably a good thing, because there's been a lot of wars fought over, religious truths and things like that that have ultimately been quite redundant. Because I feel like we should all try to just, all religions' main purpose should be to raise your level of consciousness and awareness and duty and ability to serve into like a different realm, you know what I mean? Where it leads you away just from just being a mere body on this earth to having transcendent purpose, And I feel like if that's the case, then we should allow everyone to practice in whatever type of way that looks like.
I'll say it again. Boom.
Oh man.
Speaking truth bombs, Matt. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Noah. And I know I've been talking in circles a lot, so I'm sorry for any listeners that got a little
That made
confused.
perfect sense to my ears.
Appreciate that, my
Yeah.
man. It's
Yeah.
hard to earn wisdom, you know what I mean? I read a lot, but a lot of it's from experience too,
Right.
and how to put those two together. Because I feel like the past, since I came back at the beginning of the year, basically, it's been a lot more of just the reading and the analyzing, the self-evaluating, and the noticing of the habits that I had made that I wanted to change. But then it's also important once you recognize that to move forward and put yourself out there and have courage, even if you don't necessarily know what the direction is. And hence, that's why I do calls like this with Noah. And, granted, we don't have, I know Noah has more podcast experience than myself, and he sounds so good on a podcast and stuff. But
Yeah.
I think it's just important. And I want to just tell my story from a place of like not ego, but to try to just help other people and alleviate myself by just trying to sacrifice my ego to share some truths about myself and my own shortcomings and mistakes. So um, I'm really happy that you're doing this, and it feels really good to be able to get that out there, and whether it just be two people that listen to the end of this, or it ends up being 100 plus. I I hope that like people can take things from this and be able to apply that to their own lives and their own mistakes and their own courage and ability to see things in a new light and move forward and expand their own consciousness and awareness.
I just really wanted to let that sink in for the people who are still listening, because if you are here still with us, then you are a real one, and you are a certified G, and you are going places. And yeah, so I just want to celebrate that we are all if you've made it this far, then you're more than likely on the spiritual path, and more than likely everything we've said so far has resonated with you, which is awesome. And it just feels great to be able to share with such a high vibe audience. And dude, we should think of a name. Side note, we should think of a name for the audience. Anyways, I'll probably do that, but
Hmm.
yeah. I don't know. This episode just feels so good. I'm savoring it. And it's really been a pleasure to have you on again, dude. And I love
Yeah.
you very much. You know that. So yeah, man, just keep doing you, man. Keep just rocking out, man. I know it's been a long time coming. You've come, dude, come a long ways, dude. And I'm really proud of you, man. And the balls it takes to have such a mature answer. To that last question, that was a really tough one. So
Hmm.
I think it's really just a true testament to your character and to your growth. And yeah, man, I don't even know what else to say, man. Like, cheers to our friendship and just like being, aware, man. It's so beautiful to be able to, spread
Hmm.
awareness on a platform like this. And so I just, I really just, I'm thankful that we took the time to do this.
Hmm. And the hard road is the most rewarding road, and if you don't take the hard road, you're ultimately gonna be in a lot of pain for not knowing what it feels like to really try to put yourself out there and learn and grow and things like that. And I've always been one in the past to avoid things like that. I was risk averse for a long time in my life,
Yep.
um, and I feel like you've really helped me uh, take those risks in life to really be vulnerable and find my own authenticity. And I thank you so much for that, bro.
Yeah, man, we're brothers. So, so much I could say right now, but I want to actually wrap this up, just so it, but I want to finish this off with a poem by Robert Frost. You may know the one. Um, it goes something like, I'm going to paraphrase this, so forgive me if I'm a little off, but you'll get the gist. So it goes a little something like, two roads diverged in the woods. I took the one less traveled, and it made all the difference. And I actually now I want to expand upon that
Yeah.
because I do think it's profound in that you talk about avoiding risk, but ultimately I think that's actually the path of the most resistance, because, and I know you can attest to this, when you do that hard thing, I mean, the just the reward of even doing it, I mean, pays dividends, unimaginable. And so I think it's really it just really rings true, to just being um steadfast, on this spiritual journey because enlightenment is what we're after from a spiritual sense, that's kind of the goal, right? A lot of religions talk about it and it's just kind of it's kind of a thing in culture like, just I suppose the kids nowadays have different words for it like, like he's got the sauce or like like he's a vibe or like I don't know. So it's a little esoteric but it's true. Like enlightenment doesn't come from avoiding risk. It comes from taking those big risks, but it's really ultimately the path of least resistance for your soul.
Mhm. Absolutely, man. And I kind of grow building off of the he's got the vibe, he's got the
Yeah,
sauce.
yeah, yeah.
Like kind of like what the saying is like he's got it,
Right,
and
right. It's
what is it?
charisma. It's charisma.
Um Yes, and what charisma is in a way is, I think it's really well laid out in the book Models by Mark Manson. It being like, I don't have the neediness because I've affirmed myself through my own self-respect, through my own diligence for being true to my word and what I want to do for myself. And in a way, charisma in a way could be built off of, being fundamentally sound with doing the things that are very difficult in life and having that perspective that what life is actually very difficult and stuff, but like I've done a lot of the things necessary to help me grow, and I'm acknowledging that I actually at one point wasn't there and I have put in that work in to get there, so I don't have this neediness where I need the validation from other people because I have that own respect from within, because
Because
I'm
you put in that
confident
work.
in my ability to live my truth and contribute and be who I am.
Right. And
Perhaps
not
that's
back down from any challenge, you know?
mhm. And I feel like I built a lot of that when we were exercising back in the day, like very intensely, man. Like, and those were extremely difficult workouts, but they were the hardest things that we would do in the day, and it would make the rest of the day so much easier because I was like, you know what? These reps have been so difficult, but like now this homework I got after this, no problem. Where in the past it was just like, oh, I'm gonna procrastinate this homework to the last minute or whatever is gonna be difficult.
Right.
But
But when you're under 200 pounds, there is no procrastinating. I mean, you have to do it. And um, that's really how you have to be. If your goal is to, reach that nirvana enlightenment. I mean, just, so many words to describe it, um,
mhm.
really that true, ultimate freedom, from the
I have
physical, mental, emotional, games that we play.
yeah, and I think a lot of my why in life is to be worthy of my struggles, and through exercise is a great way to kind of implement that through practice with your own body, you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
Um,
That
a
mind
quote
body.
that I wrote down that I feel like it's kind of in line with the kind of the themes that we've touched on today, is instead of possibilities, I have realities in my past, not only the reality of work done and of love loved, but of sufferings bravely suffered. These sufferings are even the things of which I am most proud, though these are the things which cannot inspire envy, you know?
Yeah.
Because no one's envious of how I spent the past 8, 9 months, you know what I mean? No
Nope.
one can be. Only you yourself could feel that way. And I feel like the most pivotal moments in my life have been the ones where I'm not really under a microscope, where it was me and you working out the Anytime Fitness, every day in Iowa City. It was the moments where like I'm trying to do this personal development and growth for my, the ability to hopefully serve in a better way going forward and find that happiness and the ability to contribute in the best way I possibly can, and hopefully there will be more love, and work done in the future because of that.
Absolutely. I absolutely, man. So I think this is a good spot to leave a bookmark, something to come back
Indeed.
to for sure. Um,
Mhm.
I know if you're still listening um this far, then you've gotten something out of this. So I just pray that you put it into practice, that you don't just like read the book and just, go back to the same old, same old. So I really hope that this podcast has made a difference. I know it has in our lives. So yeah, with that said, I thank you again for coming on, Matt, and sharing what's on your heart.
Of course, my man, my honor, my privilege.
Amen. Well, with that, everybody, thanks for tuning in to the Modern Masculine podcast, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.